of Oz or insecurity in the eastern part of Iran is to make local people think, well, gosh, what if we got 100 assault rifles? Maybe we could overthrow the government in Tehran, because after all, that is what happened in 1980 and 81, right? So anyway, there is that. So that leads me to another discussion. We haven't heard a heck of a lot about this locally here in LA, news-wise. Hello, Gin and Tonic. Hi, Brian. And there was a man named Saleh Ali. Maybe you've seen his booking photo, but he was arrested a couple days ago in Brea. He is from Salinas, but he's not originally from Salinas, now is he? It was a regular traffic stop in Brea, expired tabs, then he had some other issues, and in the normal course of inventorying the car before they tow it, because of course in California, if you have expired tabs and an expired license, what do? They impound your car, don't they, until you can solve all those problems. So you can't just take care of it tomorrow and get your license or get tabs. Now in California we impound the car. So in the course of impounding the car, the California State Legislature has empowered California law enforcement to search the car, to inventory the car. I don't know if this has ever been challenged in court, but in this case, I'm just talking from pure civil liberties standpoints. I've lived places, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, Utah, where if you have expired tabs, they say, go fix your tabs. Then you get the new tabs, you go to court, you show them, and they throw the ticket out. Your license is expired, you go fix it. But in California, of course, we impound it, and then they inventory your car and, the whole bit. So there's that. So anyway, the guy's name is, in this case, I'm glad. In this case, the guy had two, what Orange County Bomb Squad and the Orange County prosecutor are calling improvised explosive devices. They say that the guy had two explosive-filled containers, and the containers had outer coatings of what they're, in the booking documents, it says shrapnel. So I don't know if they got a description from the OC bomb squad or if they're making it up. I have not seen a picture of the devices. If it was taken into evidence, that should be available. I have a call in to Tony Rakakis' office. I want to see the devices. But in the inquiries that I've done, and first of all, the SoCal media has done a pretty piss poor job of even publicizing this arrest. But part of the reason I believe is because the feeling I got from the OC prosecutor's office was sort of a, hey, wouldn't it be fun to sit on this story for at least until Friday, when the guy's next court appearance happens? So they know who I am through KFI. And they said, well, when are you going to go on the air with this? And I said, well, the show is on Saturdays. And they said, okay. And then you go on with Bill Handel on Thursdays, right? And I said, well, yeah, I do. And they said, okay, well, his next court appearance is going to be on Friday, and that's where we're going to present the evidence. And I said, okay, so it is inventoried. You have, the devices have been either, rendered inoperable, they've been destroyed. You did photograph them at some point, right? And they indicated, yes, we photographed them. The OC bomb squad certified that, yes, indeed, they were viable. They were actual IEDs with shrapnel effect, with intended shrapnel effect and all that. So that's what we know at this point. From looking at the guy's booking photo, and then his name, Saleh Ali. Oh, wait, my raven is trying to tell me something. Margot, come here. Okay. Anyway, she's back with her family, so every day she's getting more and more wild. She doesn't, unless I have a can of tuna, she doesn't come to me anymore. But then she takes the entire can, and she actually manages to fly off with it. So, anyway, my spidey sense tells me, when I look at this guy, Saleh Ali, at his booking photo, I'm looking at a Yemeni. I'm not looking at a Saudi, and I'm not looking at an Egyptian. Though Saleh Ali could very well be an Egyptian name, not as likely as a Saudi name, but extremely likely as a Yemeni name. And the guy looks like what I know of Yemenis in interacting in Yemen. He looks like a Yemeni to me, and they are a unique ethnicity, like Cambodians versus Japanese. You know, and if growing up in Hawaii, I can tell different Asian ethnicities by simply looking at people, and so that's my background there. And having interacted from Djibouti with Yemenis through the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf, I look at this guy and I say he's a Yemeni from Salinas. So why is that significant? Well, there is a very, very, very large Yemeni community in the Bay Area, and the reason is because in the 80s there was a very ugly civil war between North Yemen and South Yemen. There used to be a North and South Yemen. There was a People's Democratic Republic of Yemen, PDRY, which was South Yemen, and then North Yemen. And anyway, now they're united. Now there's been a coup, and up in the Bay Area, when the Houthi coup happened, when the rock and roll Houthi coup happened back in 2015, there were thousands of U.S. citizens, Yemenis, originally Yemenis, who were caught in Yemen. And many of them, hundreds of them, were evacuated by Aeroflot and by Chinese airlines, not by the U.S. government. A lot of them had business back in Yemen, coffee importation, things like that. Yemen has some areas with 6,000 and 7,000, 8,000 foot elevations where they have snow and they have winter and they have very, very high quality coffee. And so there's a huge coffee importation business between the U.S. and Yemen. And this is spearheaded by American citizens of Yemeni origin. Even though, in the case of one guy that I know, he born here, and he looks like Aziz Ansari, the comic. Well, he sounds like him. The guy was born and raised here, but he speaks Yemeni Arabic, which is extremely old school Arabic. If you want to learn pure ancient Arabic, like John Walker Lind, you go to Yemen. You go into a madrasa in Yemen where you can learn literally the language that the Quran was written in. You learn it in written form and spoken form. And so anyway, there are, of course, the majority of Yemenis are Sunni, but the sect of Islam called Zaidi or Zaidi exists almost exclusively in Yemen, and they are very close to Shia Islam. And so guess what? They have been a oppressed minority for hundreds of years. Hang on a second. And many, many hundreds of them came to the United States in the late 80s and the early 90s. So up in the Bay Area is where they gravitated, and so there are non-Sunni mosques from San Jose down to Monterey and Salinas and out as far as Stockton. These are not Shia mosques. The Shia mosques are generally called Hosseinias. They don't go to real mosque, 6 days a week. They go to this little thing called a Hosseinia. On Fridays, of course, they go to real actual mosques. Sunnis go to the same mosque, if they're devout, 7 times a day. So Zaydis are technically a branch of Sunni Islam, but they're far closer to Shia. So this is the reason right now in Yemen the Iranians are backing the Houthi rebels. The Houthi rebels are overwhelmingly Zaydi. Houthi is not a sect of Islam. Houthi was a dude. Houthi was a guy who started this movement. But he started the movement in the name of Zaydi Muslims in Yemen. And they were better than the normal Yemeni government. They were better disciplined, better fighters, and the coup worked. So the Iranians have been their number one patron, with ammunition, arms, the whole thing. In return, the Saudis have been bombing the living shit out of Houthi areas. And so it's probably really hard to find a a Yemeni in the Bay Area who has not been affected by this war in Yemen. And not only does that war in Yemen get almost no time on American TV, but we are the ones supplying the Saudis with the bombs. So this is a long walk for a short dive, but looking at this guy, looking at a guy who has a Yemeni name, who appears to be a Yemeni, coming down to Brea, getting arrested with IEDs, the first thing you do, if you search for mosques in the Brea area, you come up with, at least within 15 miles, you come up with at least 20 mosques or Islamic centers. And these are, by the way, overwhelmingly Sunni. The largest Sunni mosque on the west coast is the King Fahad Mosque in Culver City. It was almost paid for entirely by the Saudi government. The Saudi consulate, of course, is at 2045 Sawtelle in Santa Monica. It's just west of the 405. It's the block west of the 405. So there's a lot of Sunni targets in Southern California, and a lot of in all of America. There's a lot of very specific Saudi targets in the Los Angeles area. Never mind Saudi season back in July and August. If you want to kill a crown prince, that's easy enough to do in Brentwood or Beverly Hills. So I don't have any inside information. All I'm saying is that if my spidey sense is correct, and this guy turns out to be of Yemeni origin, and he was down here to do terrorism, the reason he was doing it here instead of up in the Bay Area was because he is probably a Zaidi Muslim, and he has crazy eyes, and he wants to strike a blow against Sunnis, and specifically Saudis, and so he makes his bombs and transports them down here, and before he can place them at his target, he is randomly pulled over by Brea police. So we'll see what happens on Friday when his next court appearance is. I know there's a retired FBI guy who is wondering why the media doesn't care about this story. On the one hand, I'm not hearing a lot about it, but then on the other hand, in my experience, I didn't get the feeling that Orange County really wanted to be forthcoming, and that I got the feeling that something bigger was going to happen on Friday, with that the federal government is involved, and that at his next appearance, Orange County might hand over custody to the feds on this guy, and that he might be some part of something a little bigger up in the Bay Area. But then again, there was no one else in the car, and he was driving around with the bombs. It was extremely poor tradecraft on his part. If he had somebody advising him or training him, that's one of the first things they would have told him, is transport the materials separately, and then when you get near your target and you get a hotel or whatever, make your bomb. But don't be driving around from Salinas to L.A. with completed IEDs. So it tells me that this guy might have been a lone wolf. But nevertheless, it's significant, and I'll keep my eye on it. And if I can get you some more information before Friday, I will certainly put it here on the podcast. All right. Well, I got some pectic enzyme from Amazon. My guy that I just talked up, Bearded Brewer, he didn't have pectic enzyme, but I went on Amazon. They did have it, so now I have it. All right. I will talk to you tomorrow. And by the way, if you are in the Riverside area, I'll be at Wick's Brewing with Gary and Shannon, at least the first part of their show. And Solar Max, if you're one of the first 50 people that get there, bring an electric bill. If you're a homeowner, bring an electric bill over $100, and that's not hard to do. And Solar Max will buy your first beer for you, and you can keep the glass, and they can run the numbers for you, and they can show you why it makes sense to go with Solar Max and no one else. I know some people say that they go with other solar providers simply because they're the best, but that's the most